Good morning, everybody. It's Wednesday. It is hump day, middle of the week. We're going to get through the rest of this week, head toward the weekend. Hope you're having a good week. Glad you are joining us for this video. Let me make a couple of announcements first, and then we'll go on into the devotional time. First of all, it's Wednesday here for us, and we will have prayer meeting tonight at 6 o'clock on Facebook Live, so you can go to the First Baptist Church Plantersville Facebook page, and you can like us if you haven't already, and then when we start the prayer meeting Facebook Live, I'll let you know that we're starting, and you can join us for that. And your prayer list will be sent to you this afternoon, so don't forget that. And I'm sorry that I got to you so late last week, but we'll get it to you this afternoon, and excuse me for my nose itching. We'll get to you this afternoon, and you'll have that for prayer meeting. Third, on Thursdays we usually do our disciple video. Last week, apparently we had a problem. Facebook Live, when it went to post, it didn't post for some reason. It was on their end of things. So lots of people didn't get to see the disciple video. So we're going to redo that lesson tomorrow. I'll record it and then post it later. So it's a very important lesson. I hope you'll look out for that, especially the disciple group. We need to finish strong here as we wind up this in the next few weeks. So I hope that you'll join us for that tomorrow. Now let's get to the Bible. Wednesday is known in historical circles, theological circles, as the silent day of Holy Week. We see that Jesus was preparing for his arrest. He was getting ready for the Last Supper. He was getting ready to observe the Passover. He was dealing with the fact that his opponents were still angry with him. So Jesus is still on this day. He's quiet. Now, we don't know exactly everything that happened on that day. What I'm going to read to you out of Matthew 26, if you want to read that, get to that there so we can read it together. This is a very important passage, I believe, to us as Christians today, and especially to us as Christians as we deal with the virus situation that we're in. I'll explain that in a minute. Because here's the thing. We are good at celebrating as a church. I'm talking about the universal church. We are good at celebrating Christmas. We are good at celebrating Easter, celebrating Good Friday, celebrating Resurrection Sunday. But we got to remember the things that Jesus went through on our behalf so that we could be saved. He just didn't suffer physically and mentally and emotionally. That was all a part of it, and that's coming on Thursday night and Friday morning in his life, and then Friday afternoon on the cross of this week. That is coming. But you got to remember, Jesus knew all of this was going to happen, and he still went through with it. He still loved us enough to do this. And this instance here in Matthew 26 that we're about to read is very important, and I want to tell you why in just a second when we get into the passage. But it's very important to us as Christians because of what happened at this little dinner. And it tells us something we should do. So let's get to Matthew 26 and look in verse 6. Now, when Jesus was at Bethany in the house of Simon the leper, now that makes sense that it was part of Holy Week because he hid out at Bethany. That's where he stayed every night before he went to the cross. So that makes sense. That kind of goes into what happened that week. And then I'll reference something in John chapter 12 in a moment. For me, this seems like it happened on that Wednesday. Now, some would disagree and say, well, it happened earlier. Well, that's okay if it did, but it still happened. That's the truth of it. It still happened. That's why it's important to us. But it does fit into Holy Week. So you got to remember that when they wrote the Gospels, they were not writing this as it happened. They were not taking notes as Jesus was doing whatever he was doing. They say, okay, we need to remember this and write it down later. No, they wrote it down later after everything had happened. And as the church began to grow in Acts, the book of Acts, and then as Romans came about, the Gospels came about after the fact. So it's just like when we are told something, we may remember it differently, but it didn't take away from the fact that it might have happened. If you've ever played that game in a circle where you whisper something in somebody's ear and it goes around the circle and it comes back, and 9 times out of 10, almost 10 out of 10, it's not the same thing that was said at the beginning. That's how we are as humans. So the Gospels were not written as this was happening. It was written later, and sometimes they remembered things as they were remembering some other things. So whether it fits into Holy Week or not, it seems like it does, and I always have taken it that it does, and here's why. Jesus was at Bethany in the house of Simon the leper. A woman came up to him with an alabaster flask of very expensive ointment, and she poured it on his head as he reclined at table. Now, go to John chapter 12. In John chapter 12, we're given the details of who this was. John chapter 12. 6 days before the Passover, Jesus therefore came to Bethany where Lazarus was, whom Jesus had raised from the dead. So we know that's where he was. He was at Bethany. So they gave a dinner for him there. It doesn't tell us when. It just says they gave a dinner for him there while he was in Bethany. So it fits the narrative that it happened during the Holy Week. They gave him a dinner for him there. Martha served. Goes along with what happened in Martha and Mary's house. When Martha was doing all the work and Mary was sitting at the feet of Jesus, and Martha got a little upset that she wasn't helping her sister, or her sister wasn't helping her, and so all this fits together. Verse 3, Mary therefore took a pound of the expensive ointment made from pure nard and anointed the feet of Jesus and wiped his feet with her hair. So this is Mary, the woman, Lazarus' sister. She poured it on his head and his feet. Now, let's go back. Verse 8 of Matthew 26. And when the disciples saw it, they were indignant, saying, why this waste? For this could have been sold for a large sum and given to the poor. Now, verse 10 is where it gets interesting. But Jesus, aware of this, Jesus knew what was going on. Jesus knew all the thoughts. He knew all the conversations going on in the room. He knew everybody's heart that was there. So he says in verse 10, why do you trouble the woman? For she has done a beautiful thing to me. That's point number one. For you always have the poor with you, but you will not always have me. In pouring this ointment on my body, she has done it to prepare me for burial. Point number two. She did something beautiful and she prepared him. What if I came in this morning and told you I was preparing for my burial? What would you think? Is Brother Danny sick? Does he have some disease? Is he going to die today? We don't know. But Jesus knew exactly what was going on right here. He said, in verse 13, truly I say to you, wherever this gospel is proclaimed, there's the third word that's very important, in the whole world, what she has done will also be told in memory of her. Notice the three words I pointed out to you. Verse 10, she has done a beautiful thing to me. What has she done? She has prepared me for burial. And as a result of her proclaiming me, she will be remembered all the times before I come back because of what she has done. This is a part of the gospel. This is a part of what Jesus did. He was telling us right here, what I'm getting ready to do for you. I'm going to do something beautiful for you. I'm going to give you myself. I'm going to give up myself for your sin. And I'm preparing you that if you follow me and if you obey me, I'm preparing you for something you can't imagine. And it's so wonderful that it's going to be memorable. And as you go, you should proclaim me. You see the pattern here? What Jesus told them is exactly the way we should be living. We should be living in a way that we don't forget what has happened to Jesus, that we don't neglect what he did for us. I want to tell you, we have a lot of celebrations around Christmas and Easter. We talk about the giving of presents and what are you going to get under the tree and Santa Claus and all that. At Easter, we talk about Easter egg hunts and the Easter bunny and all that. That's all fine and good. It has its place, but it is not the gospel of Jesus Christ. We need to be proclaiming Jesus. What have you done that's going to be memorable to Jesus? What have you done that Jesus wants to mention to somebody else and say, hey, we're going to remember this for a long time, what she did or what he did. I want to invite you today. Find a way today and tomorrow and every day after to do something memorable to Jesus. Something that he will honor you for. Build up your treasures in heaven. Don't build them up down here. We see what's going on around us still. Some people hoarding things and not sharing with other people. Man, what has Jesus done for you? Because he has done for you something so wonderful that he gave his life for you, in turn, you ought to do something memorable for him. One of the best things that you can do is proclaim him every day. I don't mean you have to understand all the 4 spiritual laws and know all the theological answers and all those things. No, what I'm telling you is that you can do something for Jesus and share him with somebody, and it will make a difference. It will make a difference. So, thank you for listening this morning. By the way, I've already put on Facebook the verse for today. Thank you to Judy Hughes, Psalm 27:1. Hope you enjoy that and it'll lift you up today. We will see you later on tonight at prayer meeting at 6 o'clock, actually, this evening. With time change, it's still going to be light. It's not really night. So we will see you tonight. Hope you can join us to pray. God bless you. We love you. See you.